Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show, and we are not always late. I think you guys are just early. Thank you for joining us. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Spencer Kobren. To my left, or to your left, is actually my partner in crime here. And please, guys, haters, do not take that literally. There's no crime happening.
And we're not really partners.
Exactly. Well said, actually.
Sorry. Just the opportunities present themselves. Gotta go for it.
We are, and you went for it. It went well. Listen, it landed for me. I don't know if it landed for everybody else. Guys, we are the hair loss guys. This is the bald truth. I am the founder of the American Hair Loss Association. Like I was trying to say, the guy on your left is the original hair transplant mentor who is live in TBT studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm in Los Angeles. His name is Joe Tillman. And we do this program live twice a week now. And we are now in, at least I'm in, the 21st year of this broadcast. As of June, I have been doing this show for 21 years. There's a lot of guys who are listening now who are barely 21 years old. So when you guys were infants, I was sitting behind the mic in New York City talking about fucking hair loss. And at the time, I know there's a lot of people talking about hair loss now. At the time, it was a brand new thing. It was essentially, as I was told and as it was written about, it was groundbreaking. It was crazy. It was insane. It was, some people said it was just a show about vanity, that those who didn't understand it in the media. I remember, and this is a great name. His name was, last name Kuntzman.
Sorry, what?
First name I forgot. He wrote a book called Mankind's Quest to End Baldness, or something like that. And I should remember these things, but I remember he actually came into the studio. I was doing the program at the time at WOR in New York, and he was so overwhelmed by guys like Joe from Staten Island and all the calls they were getting both locally and nationally at the time. He decided to dedicate an entire chapter of the book to what I do and to the broadcast. That was I can't remember, man. I'm getting fucking old. But anyway, he did really well with that book. The guy at the time was a writer for the New York Post. And every once in a while, you will see him being interviewed for a hair loss video or a hair loss segment on the media, through the mainstream media. Still to this day, his book is still selling.
Yeah.
But I remember back in the day, even though he was doing a book on hair loss, how crazy he thought it was that I was doing a show on hair loss. And you know what?
Because he would only get contacted once every 6 months for an interview. He's like, how can someone talk about this every day and be fresh with it?
Well, yeah.
So
yeah,
but good for him.
It was great.
He didn't grab it.
I never forget. We met after he was in studio at a place called the Green Kitchen on 77th Street and First Avenue, and sat down. I ordered a grilled cheese sandwich and a Heineken. And he interviewed me for like 2 hours. And I think that, in my view, and Judy, if you're listening to the program, maybe I'm wrong. Based on the way the book was written, it seemed like the experiences that I was talking about, not just mine, but those of all of you who call in each and every week, or who were calling in back then, really shaped the way he ended up writing the book. And to me, that was extremely empowering, and it really, I guess, validated everything that we were doing. Now, with that said, we had already become, or I had already become an international best-selling author. Terrific. Already got on the radio. Terrific. But there's something about someone dedicating a chapter of their own book to your work that, and I guess maybe because I was really young, but I finally felt validated. It didn't matter that I sold the book. It didn't matter that I got on the radio. It didn't matter. It's like I was constantly always feeling like I had to continue to hustle to get this message out there. When in reality, everyone who is listening and everyone who's listening to this day, they get it. Because you guys are the largest demographic of all humankind. You guys are dealing with an issue that society does not allow us to talk about, an issue that is still the last bastion, excuse me, of political incorrectness. One of the only issues that are essentially out of our control, appearance-wise, that the world can still make fun of. Can't make fun of fat people. That's fat shaming. Can't make fun of, people with spinal bifida. Not that I would. That's special needs.
Make fun of anyone at this point.
But you can make fun of balding people.
Except bald people.
It is free reign on the balding. Free reign on the guys who are wearing hair pieces. Free reign on the people who have noticeable hair transplants. Free fucking reign on someone who may be painting their head, or if someone finds a minoxidil bottle in their boyfriend's cabinet, and these girls can go back and giggle with their friends about the fact that this guy is trying to do something about his hair loss.
I find, in all seriousness, I find that to be really surprising in today's age, especially with, I don't mean to get political, but with today's social justice warriors talking about every little, new thing that people have to be aware of as far as the level of offensiveness, the words that come out of your mouth on social media, on, metaphorically speaking, obviously, you have to watch every little critique or else you're going to offend someone. But when it comes to hair loss, I find it amazing. It's
well, actually, I think there's two things.
That hasn't been a threshold that's been crossed yet.
Well, I think people, first of all, no one wants to talk about it except for idiots like us. And it is essentially, I guess it's kind of like there's two things. There's two things, because you even hear jokes about this in mainstream media. There's small or smaller penis jokes and hair loss jokes.
Yeah.
That's all fine and dandy. So say someone's flat-chested. Holy shit.
Yeah.
You're going to political incorrectness jail.
Them. Well, if they're flat-chested, you're was it your body shaming?
Body shaming.
But if you're noticing like larger boobs, you're objectifying.
Right.
It's like there's no in between. It's like Jesus.
Right.
Like, there's so many things that you can say wrong.
But those two things there's still free reign. Now,
yeah.
Good luck with the guy, with changing the dick thing. Whoever wants to take on that, carry that fucking flag, good for you. But I've been carrying the hair loss flag for 21 years. And my trusty sidekick, partner in crime, the co-host of The Bald Truth here in the United States and worldwide, has decided to help me lift that flag and take it further than I guess I ever really thought possible.
I'm waiting for the statue of you and me raising that flag like the guys on Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
Pushing it up.
We can do it. Yeah, look, listen, I got a Lifetime Achievement Award this year, or last year.
You did. Congratulations. Yeah, we talked about that at one point. Congratulations again. I still, like, I don't sit around thinking about it, but anytime I'm reminded of it, I'm blown away that, not because you got one, but the path on which that occurred.
That was fucking, it was beautiful.
Journey.
It was a great journey.
It was.
But I will tell you something hilarious. So, smoking marijuana in California is legal. It's easy to get. You go right down the block and you can get some pot. So I'm hanging out with Andrew Zarian, who ended up coming here. And guys, hold on, we'll take a call in a second, to help me fix the studio and, get everything together. And we're hanging out. And decided to smoke a bowl. I have no problem saying that.
He did.
We did.
But he had the idea.
The idea is generally the millennials' idea at this point in my life. It's not something that pops up into my head anymore. So I'm like, fucking give me some of that shit. We're stoned, And he takes this award that I have really proudly displayed in my green room. And he's like,
sticks it down the pants.
No, he's like, dude, in 200 years, there's going to be a bunch of people after the fucking, the nukes hit that are going to be praying to this thing. They're not going to know what it is. And because we were so fucking stoned, I was in pain laughing.
Yeah, laughing so hard.
He was holding it up like the fucking, Lion King.
Oh, it's hilarious.
It was unbelievable. Because it really is a beautiful, they did a beautiful job. It's a beautiful award. The color is great. It's a beautiful statue. And it looks like something that, people from fucking outer space would think is something that you have to fucking pray to the altar of.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I want to thank FUE Europe for presenting me with the first FUE Europe Lifetime Achievement Award. And that was on their 7th year of doing these conferences. So, anyway, guys, phone number 888-659-3727. Just a little banter, a little behind-the-scenes talk. Look, this is a crazy industry. A lot of craziness that continues to go on day in and day out. But I promise you, you have a pretty good fucking chance of getting through this unscathed if you really listen to us. Good chance. It's still possible to get fucked up. There's no doubt. That's just the way that it is. But I have to say, and this may sound obnoxious, I think that we are the best chance you motherfuckers have right now with everything that's going on.
Word.
888-659-3727. Let's take a phone call. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hi, it's Victor from Vancouver.
Victor from Vancouver.
Victor.
That's a tough one for me. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So a couple of things here. You guys have a second show now?
Yeah, we do Tuesdays and Fridays. Where you been, Victor?
Okay, well, I'll try for Fridays too. Okay, all right, that's great. Just wondering.
If you subscribe to the channel, you'd know that.
Yeah, subscribe to Joe Tillman's YouTube channel.
Okay, I'll do that.
It's youtube.com/hairtransplant Subscribe, click the bell once you subscribe, and you will be notified every time we are live.
What he said.
Okay, I'll see to that. Okay.
Good.
There you go. Right on.
In the meanwhile, for those of us who have been fucked up, what consolation do you offer when you've looked at all the options and there's nothing out there really? It's either get some kind of a makeup thing, like weave or some kind of prosthesis, or live with what you have. But then you have to rely on all these things that don't make life very easy, cover-ups have a lot of limitations. You can't go in the water. You got to watch yourself on a roller coaster. Yada yada. It goes on, and you're always self-conscious of them. It's all these things you're trying to avoid. So, do you guys have any suggestions, or how do you go forward when there doesn't look like there's a lot of light at the end of the tunnel?
Look, at your point, you had surgery when? How many years ago? And how many surgeries?
No, he did some great work. It's unfortunate. I go way back to 1982 when circular plugs were the norm. Dr. Wong did some repair work on the hairline, but there's just not enough donor stuff left, and his hands are kind of tied. We talked about chest hair, body hair in general. It's kind of, he said, well, not that great, not great results. A lot of people do it for beard hair. Well, you're going to end up with scars, pockmarks, like they had bad acne. That's no good. Micropigmentation, well, if you get it wrong, you're stuck with these dark blotches because you have to keep doing it every few years, and you can't really hit the needle right in the same spot.
All right, man, look, man, you're really bringing the show down. So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Let's try to be positive. What you had some repair surgery. So let's talk about the positives of where you were to where you are now, and let's see where we can try to get you from here.
Well, you need a new technology. Either some kind of a lab-grown.
No. What I'm saying is, from where you were compared to where you are now. Do you find that do you feel there's a significant difference? At least that you look normal.
Well, not really. I mean, it's an improvement, but it's still pretty easy to tell that this is a bad plug job.
Okay. Now, what was Dr. Wong able to accomplish for you?
2 strip surgeries to improve the hairline and focus on that because it frames the face and so forth. But the plugs are pretty horrendous. It's the quintessential 80s plug job.
Now, did anybody suggest to you that potentially to maybe try to soften or remove some of those plugs so they weren't quite as visible?
Yeah, that has been discussed, but it's pretty darn risky. You're going to take a circular plug out and dissect it under a microscope and hope that you don't transect any follicles. And then that and the logistics of having to shave your head completely.
Well, as far as if the plug is actually removed, you have a much greater chance of dissecting without transection when you are looking at it under a microscope and it's in 3D. So it's unlikely you're going to transect the hairs, the follicular units once they're cored, once they're taken out. I mean, unless you're dealing with someone who's half blind and has never done this before. That's the reality of it. So that's not the issue. The issue that I see is what would the scarring be like if those hairs are be able to be recycled? Isn't going to make much of a difference as far as even recycling them. I mean, they should be reused, but the main reason to get rid of those plugs is so that you don't have that stalky appearance. And if Dr. Wong or whomever was able to kind of remove some of that stalky appearance and soften it, even around the scar tissue, there's probably a good chance that you won't feel like a guy who's walking around with a bad plug job. Joe, I mean, you could speak to this firsthand.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's there are a couple of ways to do that, but my question to you, Victor, and forgive me if we discussed this in the past, but it's been a while since you called. With the improvements that you got from your procedures from Dr. Wong, is the plug job more visible to you because you know it's there and you have to deal with it? Or do you feel like it is actually noticeable to people on the street or people that you're talking to in regular everyday situations?
Because, by your own discussions, you've said that, the first things people do is they not looking at you in the eye, they're looking up at your hairline. So I'm self-conscious about it. It does bother me.
Yeah, sorry, you started speaking before I was finished. I didn't hear the beginning of what you said. People notice it, or it's just you notice it?
I get that with the crotch all the time, which is a real pain in the ass. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I had to do that.
Yeah. By
Sorry,
the way,
Victor?
you guys know that the phone feed and the video signal on the computer are way out of sync, right? Like I'm watching you both, but and it throws me off in
Yeah,
my
it's called
response. I
it's
have
a
to
time
apologize.
delay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you don't listen to us on YouTube. You listen to us through the phone.
That's like when you're on the
Just
radio and
don't
they
pay
tell you
attention.
when they tell you to turn down your radio. It's because of the delay.
I'm talking to you through my phone now, but anyway. Yes, I believe, but it could be my own take. People notice it, and it's distracting when, especially under fluorescent lighting in office buildings where there's no forgiveness.
That's the worst.
Yeah,
those fluorescent office lights are the worst kind of lighting. It really accentuates the issues. Not just the hairs themselves, but any scarring that you have. The pitting becomes more. I get it. I remember what that's like. What Spencer was talking about is pretty straightforward. And maybe you did, maybe you didn't have this discussion with Dr. Wong, but to thin out or to remove some of those plugs, Dr. Wong has done coring work. I've seen him do this many times. Relatively speaking, where he'll physically remove a plug, close up that wound from where the plug was, and then the plug is dissected under the microscope so that those grafts are turned into smaller, more accurately created follicular units, and then redistributed into other areas. Did you ever talk to him about that?
No, I guess that's the next on the agenda to explore that. But actually, on that note, any further hair transplants, if you're turning salt and pepper gray, does that impede their ability to dissect? I'm speaking.
It can, and that's why some clinics will recommend that if you do have white hair or more salt than pepper, that you dye your hair before you come to the clinic by a couple of weeks. And that makes it easier for them to visualize the hair under magnification, because a lot of times that salt hair is almost translucent under a microscope.
Okay,
yeah.
That's kind of what I figured. On the other hand, what I find is with graying hair is less contrast with the scalp, so it's a little bit less noticeable. So it's it's a bit of a dilemma, so to speak.
Well, I'd say, you don't notice it on camera as much because for whatever reason, cameras do not pick up how gray my hair is. But I'm about 50-50 gray, 50% white. So it's much more salt and pepper in person. And I have to say that alone has given me the overall in-person appearance of having much more hair. That is why I'm able to paint my scalp as effectively as I can, because of the lack of contrast or overall contrast between the scalp and the skin. That's why even my hairline, which if you look closely, you can see right through it from a social distance, it looks pretty damn good because of all of the gray hair. So for me, if I had the option to reverse my gray naturally with some pill or something without dyeing it, I wouldn't take that option. I would keep it, even though it makes me look a little older than I could. I choose to keep it gray. So yeah, I mean, it's a great advantage. And here's the thing: even if you dye your hair, and Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong. For FUE, you essentially have to dye your hair, and sometimes they will dye your hair on the day of the procedure. Once they shave down, they'll add a little bit of like instant kind of quick dye, and then wipe it away. Sadly, when they should give you a patch test. I've known a couple of guys who were allergic to it. But in order for these guys to even see it, to core your hair, it has to be dark. But when it comes to magnification, the only part of the hair that's going to be dyed is where it's exiting from the skin. Now, it's helpful that the hair is dyed, but it doesn't guarantee that that gray hair or that the translucent bulbs won't be cut or transected. So it does make it slightly more difficult, but for most people who are really skilled, it's not a big deal.
Well, with FUE, it doesn't.
Different for FUE,
it helps to have a little bit of different color to the follicle or the exiting follicle. And what some clinics will do, they'll use the name escapes me. It's betadine.
Yeah.
As they're cleansing and disinfecting the area, they'll use betadine
And darkens it.
and just leave it on,
Yeah.
and that actually colors the hair immediately, right there. But when you're using FUE,
now that's a little in the trenches tidbit that I would say 99.999% of people in this field would never know, including myself. And I am not ashamed to say that. So thank you for that bit of information, Joe.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look, hair dye of any sort doesn't really help with FUE because FUE is still a blind procedure anyway. So as long as the follicle exiting the scalp can be seen, and under magnification, when you're wearing loops, when you're wearing the lenses, you can still see where the hair is exiting the scalp. It just makes it a bit easier. You don't have to really, you're not getting lost in a sea of whiteness when you're looking for the exit points. But once that punch goes in, you're going by feel. If you're using a manual punch, you're going by the general angle and direction of the hair if you're using any punch. So the color is irrelevant, really. But when you're dissecting under stereoscopic microscopes, the follicle being dyed, yes, it doesn't really go below the dermis, but you can still see the general angle and get a better feel for where those spaces are in between the follicular units when you're looking under microscope. So it does help to have some color there.
Okay, well, I'll attend the consultation with Dr. Wong and see what he says about that idea of doing something with the circular plugs.
And we're going to take we're going to take some more calls. But I think your question is, what is going to be your end result? What can you do even if you improve your situation, you still feel like you don't have enough hair. You're concerned about getting SMP, understandable. You're concerned about the other alternatives, makeup, things like that, understandable. You seem like you're probably concerned about wearing hair, very understandable. But what I can tell you is this, depending on your age, and how old are you now?
Turning 60 later this year.
Okay. Not a young man. And I can say that because I'm about to be 54. I am no longer a young man. We're not that far off in age. And the reality is, when you cross a certain threshold, as far as being some things being socially acceptable, if you get your hairline to the point where you felt comfortable, if you chose to wear a very light hair system, I always say you got to look a little bald with these hair systems. Otherwise, it's a giveaway. If you choose to wear a very light hair system in the back, they can be secured very well, and you can live a life that's pretty free. I mean, it's never going to be completely free. You're always going to have to touch that shit up. You're always going to have to potentially, retack around the sides and the perimeter in the back or whatever. And you're going to be conscious of that before you go out. But once you get into place, you actually can, if it's done correctly, do the things that you want to do, like swim and all those things, and go on, a Ferris wheel. But you got to make sure that that bond is fucking fresh. You cannot depend on going to one of these clubs every 4 weeks or 6 weeks. That's when these motherfuckers get into trouble. You have to be your own hairpiece advocate. You have to know your shit if you're going to make that happen. But I have known guys who have had very successful yarmulke-type pieces in the back with a great hair transplant in the front who, at repair cases, they moved on with their lives, especially at the age of 60, and they feel like new people. Now, Dante is one guy that calls into the show while he still would prefer to have all of his own hair. He says that at least aesthetically, and according to his family and all of his loved ones, that he looks completely natural and like he has a full head of hair. And it's really not that much of an imposition for him to deal with it. So that's a possibility. That's a reality that you can walk out into the world and feel good and comfortable, put on a suit of clothing, go out to dinner, do what you want to do, and feel good about the way you look. That does exist. You just have to be open-minded.
Okay, I will keep that in mind. Would Joe be able to recommend anybody in Greater Vancouver that you would think would be able to do that well enough?
You mean a hairpiece?
I don't know. I honestly haven't even looked into it. I've talked to there's a company. They're not just in Vancouver, but they're in Canada called DeBrule. They're
Rule of Hollywood.
What's that?
I think they go by Dubrule of Hollywood.
Yeah.
I've seen the
but
ads
there's
before.
also I actually pulled this up while we were speaking, but yeah, I just lost it. But just do a search, Hair Systems Vancouver, and I'll tell you this: you'll see an ad for Hair Direct or something like that. That's where you can get inexpensive hair systems that are every bit as good as something you'll find in any of these clubs, if not better. But you got to find someone that knows how to cut it, find someone that knows how to blend it into your existing hair and help you out with it. And that, just take some research. I don't know of anyone specifically.
Another good site is coolpiece.com.
Coolpiece.com.
They need to,
that was the other one.
I think, work on their presence as far as their site, some of their site is concerned. But as far as their customer service, their return policy, all that stuff, I've only heard like super good things about them. You can get something custom if you wanted to and return it if you don't like, which is pretty unheard of. So, but what I would do if I were in your particular shoes is order a stock system that can then be cut down into a very small system. Stock system will cost you like $200 and something, get like a 50% density, and try to match your hair as much as well as possible. It may not be perfect because it's stock, but it'll give you a sense of what it's like to wear something. And the key is, like Joe said, you need to find someone locally who's able to help you cut it in, cut it down to size. You need like a razor blade and just a template that could be made, and essentially apply it for you initially so that you can get a feel for it. There's no point in spending $1,000 or $2,000 for a hairpiece, especially if you are not comfortable wearing one. So these are essentially.
Is this going to be an adhesive system?
You would have to wear adhesive. Yeah, that's the way. You don't want to. You don't want to wear clips.
Yeah, but okay, but there is a certain amount
and
of
Victor,
hair
I just
back
did a
there,
search
my
in
crown.
Vancouver. There's several places listed. You just type in hair system styling Vancouver, and there's there are plenty of places listed. So just go talk to each one of them and see what they have to say.
All right, thanks. Okay, I'll consider that as well.
Good luck, man.
Okay. Thanks very much.
All right,
okay,
take
have
care.
a good night.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Phone number is 888-659-3727. Look, it's so sad how hair systems have been stigmatized over the years for guys. And part of that is because they used to be so fucking bad. But women who are dealing with this issue, as fucked up as it is for women, and it is more fucked up for women in many cases, they choose to wear hair. It's like, you go, girl. You're looking good.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. And women are wearing hair every day.
Empowering.
Yeah.
It's empowering for them.
Yeah.
And one thing, talking about someone in the chat room was talking about telling another chat member to go check out some other videos about a subject, but there are some great videos, younger guys, even like millennial guys,
who look really
talking
good
about their hair systems, and they look fucking awesome. Like, they look really good.
Yeah, they embraced it, man. They just said, "Fuck it, I want to walk
totally
the earth with hair."
They're so good now that if I were in the same position I was in, X number of years ago, I might actually consider a hair system. Like, they're awesome.
I had ordered probably 3 different times as a younger person, and did the whole cut-in, gave it a shot. It could look incredible. Now, I am lucky enough where paint works. Don't want to deal with it right now. But I also know that that's an option down the line. Like, I'm not afraid to use that option. I'm not afraid to say, hey, you know what? Fuck it, I'm 54 years old. I'm gluing some hair to my head.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't be a stigma. And I have to tell you that I believe that if you went up to a woman and you were dating them and you had to break the news to them, if they're shocked, they're not going to give a shit. They'd be like, I had no idea. They would not give two shits if you look good. It's if you're self-conscious about it, if you make it like you're a fucking leper or something.
Well, but you also can't live in your parents' basement, right?
Yeah, no.
You gotta have a certain level of establishment. But yeah, once all those basics are done, and you're out there and you're at least fairly successful, as long as you seem confident, you can pull off hair.
Yeah.
So
I wish more guys would understand, and I have to say that there'd be a lot less people suffering on the forums if they would go to and watch some of these videos and say, fuck it, man. I'm going to go with this first. Listen, surgery is always going to be there. If you can't deal with wearing hair, great. I understand that's a fucking pain in the ass. Don't let these people tell you otherwise. But you could throw it away. You can't throw away surgery, man. Once you are cut, you are cut.
Completely.
Let's take a call.
Let's do it.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, gentlemen. This is Dave from Brooklyn.
Dave from Brooklyn. What's happening, my man?
What's up?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey, I just want to segue off what you were just saying. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Options are always good, and why not juggle up a few different possibilities? I actually have noticed a trend, just like you guys have, that young guys are embracing hair pieces, and it's like, what's the harm? No harm, no foul. If it doesn't work, like you said, Corbin, you throw it in the garbage. What's the big deal? Or you whatever, you return it or whatever.
That's it.
But
that's what I mean, just throw that shit. Listen, they're so inexpensive today because of the there's no middleman, or there's a middleman, but it's not the same thing. It's not a company that has to worry about rent and all this bullshit. They're selling it in bulk. So you're getting the same pieces, actually better pieces, because they're more disposable and lighter weight. When you buy a system at a club, for instance, they recognize that if they sell the membrane or the lace that's too thin, that can potentially tear, or that hair is going to shed from, that no one's going to want to spend $3,000 on that, and they're going to be pissed when they realize this thing is deteriorating. Now, the trade-off is they're wearing a fucking thick wig on their head, as opposed to something that's very delicate that needs to be taken care of, that really should be thrown away every month or 2 months, kind of like a disposable contact lens. So these companies provide that option for men now, and it is true. There are more young guys than ever. Like in my day, no fucking way. That shit would not happen. More guys than ever now saying, you know what? If girls can do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to live my 20s and enjoy my life.
Interesting. Yeah, guys are wearing
the same logic does not apply to painting your fingernails, just so you know.
Oh,
it depends.
I beg to differ.
Different logic.
There's there's a couple of musicians out there that are going to be a little pissed at you, dude.
Guys, between the both of you, what do you have? 50 years of experience and research and work and videos and everything you guys have done. And I want to quickly get out of here because you got guys who really need your help. And I my story. Went bald. Was too scared for the drugs. So now I live bald. But if I had found you guys, if you guys were around in 1997 and YouTube had been around, I'd probably have a full head of hair right now. But that's the decision I made. But I just want to quickly say that thank you for creating minimal standards. You guys are telling everybody minimum the guy has to be part of this group. Minimum he has to have this amount of experience. Minimum he has to be recommended. You guys, and that, because you could have all the doctorates in the world. You could be the greatest dermatologist. You could have been doing this but if you don't have standards, you'll cut anybody for the money, and you'll put profit over passion. And you guys are about putting passion over profit. And to make and to be successful at what both of you do and to do the right thing, there's nothing greater in the world. So I just want to thank you on behalf of, I think, many listeners and many followers for everything you do. And I want to get out of here because I know you guys have got some callers who really need your help.
Well, listen, man, I really appreciate that. I'm going to use that to sell something because that was fucking brilliant. No, I honestly, I really appreciate the fact that Not only do you take the time to listen, but you understand it. You get it. You know what it takes. And, you've been around the block. You know how hard it is. I think for us to really do what we do and stay relevant and continue to do what we do without like completely selling out. And I'm not saying I'm not going to sell out one day, but I have been lucky enough where I have not had to, and I've chosen not to for obviously, obvious reasons. But there are a lot of really good doctors now that I never even heard of that are finding us, that are finding me, that are willing, that are now want to put, you say patients before profits. I say, at least in this industry, patients before politics, because this is a very political industry. And there are guys out there, young doctors, who are willing to put in the time, fuck the politicians, tell the truth on this broadcast and through our segments that we're putting out there, and really inform patients of the reality of this industry without fear of reprisal or being judged or being persecuted by their peers, which is what this industry has been all about. Basically, they've been, these guys who are in the know stay silent because they don't want to be, penalized by their peers politically. They don't want to be in a position where they're not going to be able to move up the ladder in certain organizations. Those days are fucking dead. And now we have people who are willing to speak out. So it's not just us anymore. We may have started this thing, but you're going to see a lot of young doctors now coming out and being advocates the way that the old guard should have been 20 years ago.
You got a couple of new interviews that I've noticed where they're younger doctors, haven't really heard of them before, and they get it, man. They understand, and it's refreshing. It's really nice to see that. Where like Dr. Verona, man, I loved his comments. I mean, he knew he was putting himself out there. He knew he's putting his neck on the block potentially, but he gave zero fucks, and God bless him.
That's exactly, that's well said. Zero fucks. You know what they give a fuck about? Their practices and their patients.
And the patient, yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Not what some guy in the UK who's wearing a fucking sash thinks about you. So listen, we're going to let you go. I really appreciate the kind words, and thanks for listening.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And supporting us.
Take care, and supporting us. Thank you so much.
See you, Dave.
We have some lines open, 888-659-3727. Yeah, I mean, who do I have on today? We're actually going to put him on the IHRS site because I thought that his interview was compelling. This is a young doctor from Mexico.
Yeah, that was. I'll tell you right now. Actually, that was
Juan Capillo.
Capillo.
And he came into the studio. First of all, he was so grateful to be here, and he had no fear of saying what he has been witnessing for the last 4 conferences that he's been to of the ISHRS. That never happened before. It was just like, those doors are fucking closed, and there's a fucking wall of silence, man.
Yeah. Dr. Juan Campillo.
Yeah.
That's right.
What stays behind this curtain, what we see behind this curtain stays behind this curtain. Really raspy today. And that's what always frustrated me. I would get calls from doctors who Joe, very well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they would complain about the work of another physician and say that this patient came in and I can't believe what was done to him. This, that, and the other thing. This, do this. You need to do this. But don't tell him I said anything.
Yeah. This guy should be removed from every organization. Just don't let him know I said so.
Yeah, just keep me out of it.
Keep me out of it. Yeah.
These young guys, Chris Verona, Ryan Welter, he said it like it is. He's like, maybe finally the leadership, the old guard of this field, will take fucking notice and start affecting some fucking changes. Those weren't his exact words, but it's something like that.
That was the general message.
There's only one guy.
Hopefully people notice.
There's only one guy in this entire industry. While, there were times when even I went head to head with him. And you went head to head with him. One guy in this entire industry that had the fucking balls back in the day to tell the truth about some of these really bad doctors.
Yep.
And his name is Dr. John Cole. And no matter what transpired over the years between the two of us, we always, I think, got each other and knew deep down that we were working on the same team.
Yep.
And actually, you're working directly with Dr. Cole now yourself. And what I love about, and I got to respect John for this as well, he is not the type of guy to work with any type of conventional marketers in this industry.
Well, no, he's not. And just to flip back a little bit, rewind what you were saying earlier about him having the balls to stand up to the establishment long ago. He's had the balls to stand up to anyone and everyone. He again, zero fucks given.
Zero fucks given.
He has always been. I talk about him in my I don't know how to describe it, but the video that I created, talking about him and why I feel he's worth considering. He is, I say this, pioneer is used way too much in this industry, but he is definitely a pioneer on multiple levels, not just with, being the first doctor in North America to completely convert to FUE away from FUT, but also, and not just creating, the most commonly used FUE punch, manual punch in the world, the CIT punch handle, and all kinds of other really innovative tools for not just FUE but also FUT clinics. But he was also pioneering in his attitude, with his desire to push the industry forward. And I think part of it has to do with wanting to create a legacy, but also mainly for patient care. And he and I have butted heads in the past. I mean, we would get into debates on the forums back when I was always on the forums, and some of them got pretty wild. But I never ever lost sight of the fact that he's one of the best out there as far as the work goes. We didn't always see eye to eye on some of the aspects, but moving forward to today, he has always been the kind of guy, the kind of doctor where he only wants to associate ultimately with people that have a similar vision for the industry overall. And so when we finally started working together, it was almost kind of like when I said, yeah, let's do this. It's almost like, why didn't we do this before? And I know why we didn't do it before, but it just kind of fit, right? And
what I like about him, and I don't mean to cut you off, and that's just something that I do.
But you do.
But this is what I like about this guy. And, I'm very much cut from the same cloth as far as, my headset's going out. If someone is wrong about something, and then they're willing to actually say, I was fucking wrong, and I'm sorry. This guy has no ego as far as, admitting that he may have been mistaken and
He has
apologizing.
humility.
He has humility. That's exactly, and that is a incredible quality that I actually wrote about as in one of the articles for the hair transplant industry. That these guys really need to have a little bit more humility, and I think John Cole is a real example of that. I'm going to play something. I'm going to see if I can actually play this. Now, my computer is hooked up to the same channel as your voice now.
Okay.
So let's see if this works. This is from my Instagram on my computer. Let me see if I can even hear it.
Your message is more important today than it's ever been. This industry is in more danger today than it's ever been.
Right.
And so if we don't start to work with you, and if we don't start to spread your message and do it in a way that resonates with consumers, then this industry is finished.
I mean, who else would have the fucking courage and the balls to fucking say that? Was that loud enough, Joe?
I couldn't hear it on my end because it was on my channel,
Yeah.
but it came through in the video fine. I could hear it after I waited.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what he said.
Yeah. Well, essentially said that if he doesn't work with us, if the industry doesn't work with the IHRS and the Ball of Truth and with people like yourself, and to get the message out there to the consumer and to people in this field and to change things and to correct the trajectory of this field, this industry is finished. And what he means by that is it's not just, the old guys are done. There's going to be an industry of a bunch of turnkey motherfuckers who know nothing. So all these guys, they're going to be selling fucking, pocket combs on the 6 trains just to try to keep their kids in fucking private schools.
Yep.
They are fucking finished if they don't wake up. And the fact that John Cole would say that about me, I can tell you this.
Amazing.
That shows that the level of integrity that this guy actually has.
Agreed. 100%. 100%. I'm glad to have him on board. Obviously glad he was working with you, but glad to have him on board, hair transplant mentor, and for now and for the foreseeable future.
Well, there's a lot of great changes that are happening. There's a lot of momentum. I've attempted to work with larger organizations. They've reached out to me. It's been 2 years. Last time I had to sit down was 6 months ago, and it's the same old, whatever, and that's fine. I wish them the best, and I want to make sure that they thrive in within their wheelhouse and really do what they should be doing, and that's continuing on with these scientific meetings and helping to grow the field in that sense as far as educating patients. But we got to do our own thing, man. And there are just too many doctors who want to take part in, baking this pie. A lot of doctors in this, and a lot of people in the world in general, they all want a fucking piece of the pie, but they're not willing to take the time to help bake it.
Exactly.
And the guys who are willing to help bake it, those are guys who are going to remain relevant. Those are going to be the new trailblazers and the new leaders in the field. Those are going to be the guys who are on every consumer's short list. And they're going to be the leaders of the new hair transplant industry that sadly a couple of fucking laymen have to save. I had an earthquake.
It's amazing. What's that? Earthquake?
Dude, if there was an earthquake, man, I would be screaming like a little girl right now. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, boys. What's going on? It's Nico.
Nico, what's happening, man?
Nico. What's up, buddy?
What's going on? A little bored in the chat, so I figured I'd give a call if the lines are open.
Lines are open. Welcome.
Welcome
I
back.
do. Thank you. Good show, man. So far, fucking awesome. I guess it's nothing I even thought about until just a moment ago, but I was just wondering, I think, finasteride may be starting to work for me because of, originally I think I had really curly hair, and now I'm noticing that my hair is curling a lot more. So maybe that's a tell. Maybe not. I don't know. I have some fucked up shit going on with my hair, but maybe it's working. I guess
something's working. Something's changing. Your hair is not going to all of a sudden take on a curl. That means it's at least continuing to grow.
Yeah. So positive, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
And I guess I'm wondering about just as far as surgery is concerned. I know working with curly hair can be a challenge, right?
Yes.
Is that primarily because of angle direction and that kind of thing, or is that usually the challenge? Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, I mean it's with curly hair, it's not just curly above the dermal level. It's subdermal as well. So yeah, it's usually anyone's guess if you're going for FUE which direction that hair is going. And then that's wow, there's so much to that. But then with strip surgery, you can better visualize it if the strip process is solid. The slivering portion of the strip dissection, you can see where they're going and usually avoid transection. So or reduce it to a minimum. So yeah, I mean it can be a challenge. It just depends on the experience of the clinic and the technicians that are involved. But and the thing is, also clinics that are experienced with curly hair also know when to turn away from a procedure if the hair might have too tight of a curl. That's why, African American patients, some clinics don't even want to take on that job because it is really difficult to work with that kind of hair. The curls are a lot tighter. So with FUE, clinics will usually use a bigger punch to make sure that they're getting the entire circumference of that follicle. But then with strip, I mean there's a lot of work, trimming work that goes into getting the follicles into a manageable size, even with strip surgery. So it's curly hair in general has a host of issues that straighter hair doesn't have.
Right. Would most IHRS docs be pretty comfortable working with curly hair, or are there more guys who are more specialized with it, would you say?
I would say there are some guys that actually are really more focused on, especially guys who've done a lot of Afrocentric hair. They have a really kind of honed focus on working with people who have the curl, under the scalp, obviously, and the just essentially placing curlier hair. But yeah, I would say if you have like a normal amount of curl, I would say most physicians see their share of people with curly hair. If you have Caucasian type curly hair, you're probably going to be in good hands with most of the doctors. But you can ask them, and and by the way, it's funny because FUSK asked me. He said I should have my emergency derm match for earthquakes. Actually, I always do. Actually, and I have a little hand mirror that I carry around at all times, just in case I got to get the fuck out of this place. So and everyone thinks I'm joking. I keep that shit in my pocket.
You're OCD kind of.
I am OCD for sure. Dude, there's a story if you read a book called Never Forget by Mitchell Fink. Tells my story of 9/11, and I talk about essentially painting my head and putting on, taking a shower before I left. And there was a person on the internet that read that book and reviewed it and focused on my story and essentially said some pretty nasty stuff about the fact that I cared that much about my hair and that I was, basically mentally ill. Just saying.
Fucking too.
Yeah. Dude, I embrace the haters, my man.
Oh yeah, fuck it, power to you.
Yeah.
I just like the last name Fink. Reminds me of one of my favorite movies, Barton Fink.
Dude, Fink,
Oh yeah.
Kuntzman. Think about all these guys writing books.
You're a sick fuck, Fink.
You're a sick
Barton Fink. Who is that? What's his name?
That was John Goodman saying that.
Right. But Turturro, I'm thinking of, right? John Turturro.
John Turturro.
That's the kind of curly hair that I'm thinking that I'm heading back towards. That kind of Jufro-y sort of factor. Getting back to the curl thing.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of advantage to the Jufro. You know, a lot of advantage.
Yeah, there is actually. Yeah.
Volume, density, or appearance of density.
Yeah, volume.
Appearance of coverage.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So essentially, even if it's kind of like, you know, the top of a fucking, you know, forest. You're flying over that forest, man. Shit looks dense. Once you go past those leaves, you know, there's a big separation between the trees. You can have that type of coverage with the right type of curl.
Yeah. I was looking at, saw a picture of Ted Danson, who clearly must have had some work. And then I saw a picture of him coming out of the water, and I was like, holy shit. So I was like, that's interesting.
His issue was, I remember seeing cases where, I mean, he's like, back in the days when he was doing Cheers, his hair was like, I remember thinking even back then, I was like, God, that fucker's got a lot of hair. And then I saw him later on in life, and he still looked like he had a lot of hair. But then in another picture I saw, it was super thin, and he's just like, what's his name? The guy, I forgot the actor's name, played in House. The British actor.
I don't know his name, but I know, he had a lot of work.
Just full of, not work, concealers.
Yeah, but I mean, Ted Danson actually, in Cheers, he wore a piece. His last show of Cheers, he took off his piece, if you guys remember. So
I don't remember.
Yeah, so he.
I do. Yeah.
He wore a yarmulke piece, and if you look closely, knowing what I know today, and I'm telling you, I was going through the initial throes of my hair loss back then when I was watching Cheers, and it bummed me out to fucking see Sam Malone's hair. Bummed me out.
Yeah, totally.
I was just like, that motherfucker.
Yep.
But the thing is, he had such a great hairline and great temporal points, great sides, great donor, that the piece just sat right in there, and that was it. He was good.
The suave. Hey, so you guys, the IHRS site doesn't have anything. I know you probably don't have a devoted section to curly hair special, doctors that any sort of drop down where I know you have just your list of doctors, but no one that would be profiled in their bio that says they do work with curly hair.
Oh, we don't, but I can guarantee you I'm going to get a lot of calls now from guys who are going to say, hey, can I have curly hair specialist in my bio?
I was going to say, can you modify my bio?
That will happen, Nico.
I'm going to let you guys go, but I was going to say, or you're going to let me go, but I think a lot more doctors are listening. I checked in with my doctor today, and I'm pretty sure a lot more doctors are listening to the show. That's just my impression.
Oh, well, we're forcing them to listen. I was actually, I was going to try to, I didn't have time to make it happen today. I was going to try to simulcast on our industry Facebook page to get these guys to watch. But I didn't have time to get into the studio early to play around with it to make it happen. I didn't want to fuck up this stream. And because we're essentially streaming to 3 places currently, and one, which is New York, that streams to GFQ, and then GFQ streams to all of the audio resources. So, and I'm also streaming to Joe's page, and we're also streaming on Twitch.
Cool.
So, but we'll make that happen. But yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I think a lot more doctors are finally. It only took fucking 20 years of apathy.
Oh, that's what it takes, man. Time and patience. I was at my doctor today, and we just kept talking about a lot of shit. And he was really cool and supportive. It was one of the best times we met since sort of some of my disappointments, and I felt like he really heard me and all the stuff I've talked about in the past about being more emotionally, listening, being the emotional intelligence thing, and some of the questions I had. He was like, wow, you're really informed. And he's like, oh, so where did you hear about that kind of information? I said, oh, I've just been listening to the show a lot more and just general talk. And he was very appreciative. And I feel like maybe he and maybe his, one of his,
associates.
The consultant associates. There you go.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's consultant or whatever. Feel like the people are listening more. So, power to you guys. I really appreciate that. And you guys have schooled me on so much shit. It's it's like what you said earlier, just about the dyeing the hair during FUE. It's like you only get so much information from visiting a doctor or online. It's like it's all about the ball truth, baby. And Joe's channel, fucking you guys are the shit. So thank you, and didn't want to take any more time of yours. So to be continued, of course.
Listen, I really appreciate that. And I have to tell you that if I'm going to take the time to cut up any show, it's going to be this one to send to these doctors, because there's been some great, I guess, testimonies of the importance of this broadcast tonight. So I really appreciate that, man.
No, we appreciate you guys. So keep going, and I'll be listening. I'll hop back in the chat.
All right, Nico. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the support, buddy.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Oh, man, I just cut him off. I don't know if I got bronchitis or if it's lung cancer. I don't know what it is. I think I need to see a doctor.
Is it really a good idea to go see a doctor?
I am raspy. I'm not, I just feel like congested. And I'm just like, I did smoke. From the age of 16 for quite a while, and, did some other things in my life and lived in the city, and I probably breathe in more hairspray than most hairstylists.
You got your respirator.
I do.
You don't breathe it in.
I don't breathe in these last few years because I have my respirator.
Yeah.
I breathe this stuff in. I don't know what's going to happen to me.
You don't know. You know what? You're breathing in the fumes from your acoustic treatment. The foam.
Fuck, I am. And I'm breathing the fumes from the carpeting in the studio.
Completely paranoid now.
And I'm breathing the fumes from the the soundproof curtains.
And you got the fumes from the traffic down below, wafting up. You just leave, man.
You know what I need to do? Stop worrying about anything else and live every day like it's my last fucking day. And that's it.
There you go.
I'm going to spend every fucking dollar I have on hookers and blow.
See, it's good. At least got a plan.
Yeah. All right, guys. 888-659-3727. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, this is James from Texas.
James, what's happening, man?
Hello, James.
Hey, not much. And it's been a while since I called, maybe a few weeks. I've been trying not to call. Just been watching.
Why have you been trying not to call? You can call anytime, dude.
Yeah, I just feel like I've been calling a little bit too much, and I needed to, and maybe asking the same questions. I wanted to give it a little more time.
All right. To ask the same questions?
What's that?
You wanted to give it a little bit more time to ask the same questions?
No, that I usually ask similar questions, and I wanted to give a little more time instead of boring you with the same questions.
No, I appreciate it.
You don't
man.
bore us, buddy.
Yeah.
Fire it off.
Yeah,
what you got?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I'm glad that Nico is maybe experiencing some positive from the medication, some positive results. I guess we'll see. But I wrote a couple of things down, like a couple of topics that maybe you guys can choose. I'm going to read them off to you if that's okay.
Sure.
I wanted to ask about Scorpion.
Do we have to answer it? Do we have to answer in the form of a question?
I'll just read them. I'll read them, and then whatever topic you want to talk about, I'm all for it.
Okay.
But I came up with these about 5 minutes before I called, so because I always want to ask a lot of questions, but we'll just see whatever you find interesting. All right, I wanted to ask about Scorpion, which is a caller that has called throughout the years to your channel, and then also why hair sheds when on treatment, finasteride, dutasteride, or other types of treatments. I wanted to talk about a doctor. I don't know should I say their names or
yes,
like a user. Okay. Well, there's a doctor named Amiya Prasad from New York. He has YouTube videos. I wanted to talk about his, I guess,
the $5,000
promotion.
PRP treatment.
Yeah, he's the
Yeah,
king,
exactly.
king of the $5,000
Cyclostim.
PRP.
Yeah, which that's also interesting to me because I usually as everyone else does, right? We look up videos and in search of answers or
Look, if
you
you
see a doctor uploading a
if you're
video.
looking up, if you're trying to figure out how to install your washer and dryer, go on YouTube. If you're trying to figure out, maybe some workout routines, go on YouTube. You want to learn how to pick a good blender, you go on YouTube. If you're considering surgery, stay the fuck off of YouTube unless you find Joe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just like Joe, there's some of us get our education from YouTube, and unfortunately, I guess with him, he does provide some good content. However, it always leads into his Triclostim promotion, which is kind of disappointing, I guess. But anywho, that's another thing, and he also says that 60% of users respond to finasteride. I don't know how accurate that is because I think I've heard that it was upwards of like 80%, closer to 90%.
Clinically, at least during clinical trials, it was 82%.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know if he...
Or was it 80? No, I'm sorry. It was 86%. It was 86%. So that means 14% had zero response who were on the drug.
Yep. Yeah, which is significantly different, in my opinion, than from what is claiming on his videos. He says 60, which is kind of like disappointing, I guess.
You got to understand that this guy, and this is no offense to him, just the reality. I don't know. I mean, he got together with Gary Hitzig years ago, and that's how he kind of got into the hair world. He's I don't know if he's a facial plastic surgeon or if he's a board certified plastic surgeon. But he was not involved in hair. He was not a hair transplant surgeon, and he started to work with Gary Hitzig. Basically Gary was working in his practice, and they started to do the A-cell PRP thing, and that's how it kind of hit off. What was that? 7 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, give or take. Yeah.
So before then. And before YouTube, this guy was not someone who was involved in hair, to my knowledge, in any way, shape, or form. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that is an accurate assessment.
I believe it is. I don't think he's doing anything at all, and as far as I know, this is all he does with hair. I don't even know if he's doing surgery today.
I don't think he is.
Yeah, it just seems like it might be just a cash grab, but anywho. The next one is Hairliciously. It's like you said, I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but it's just some, we also like look up others, and he uploads videos that may be misleading, I guess you can say, because although it is interesting, to keep those like who are following in the know, I guess with all these, for example, he talks about Brazula, Polycum, Follicum, Broadsu lotion, and there's each one has its own video, and it kind of stands out. And I don't know if it's like clickbait or it's.
Well, I would say that it is clickbait, but it doesn't make
it absolutely. Right.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean. Listen, this guy is getting information that he believes is going to be of some worth to people who are dealing with hair loss, and he puts it out there, and he does it in a palatable way that millennials are attracted to. He's doing a very good job with that, and
I understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, and the majority of young people, the forum owners, and all, that's how it fucking works. So, what he's doing is just an extension of what people have been doing on message forums forever. And
frankly, he's regurgitating existing information that he's reading on other websites, or that he's copy pasting from other websites. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. What he's done is he's tapped into a segment of this subject matter that really generates a lot of interest based on desperation, as far as I'm concerned. And he's not doing anything wrong. I mean, good for him. It's just not something I'm interested in. But yeah, I mean, when I said earlier it's clickbait, it's because there's nothing new. Like it's the same thing that I've always had an issue with, is people spending hours on discussion boards speculating about, the legitimacy of this claim or that claim by these biotech companies, that means fuck all. It means absolutely nothing. And this is the kind of thing, it kind of racks my brain.
But there are some very popular sites, and one guy who actually, he's a really nice guy, very respectful. And what I mean by respectful, he just seems to respect everyone around him, in the industry. And very nice. He's reached out to me saying, anytime, there was a time when we started Bald Truth Talk, that we had really the most trafficked area when it came to cutting edge future treatments. It was getting so out of hand that I had to make a decision to either allow it to continue and continue with the crazy amount of traffic we were getting, or shut her down, essentially. And that's what I decided to do. And so when people were coming out with all kinds of bullshit, we were just like, nope, boom, delete, moderate, to the point where there was a mass exodus to some other forums. One guy was actually with open arms, actually publicly welcomed anyone from Bald Truth Talk that doesn't want to be part of it to come to this forum, because we will take that traffic. Didn't bother me. I wanted that traffic to go away. And then we essentially just continue to do what we do. And that is just provide what's available today, talk a little bit about potential future treatments, but do not make that the entire forum. Because I think that, sadly, young guys especially end up it causes them a tremendous amount of anxiety, a lot of false hope, and they end up wasting years of their lives reading and interacting about this stuff that will most likely not come to fruition for at least another 20 years.
Yeah, I've been there. I remember being there, especially when I first discovered my hair loss. I was searching hours and hours and hours on end for the quote-unquote answer. And I even called about asking about, I want to say it was like follicum or something like that back in October. And I don't know, it just got, I think I remember what you said one day, or a few times actually, that these underground treatments would not be underground, that they would be on the cover of like Time magazine. And that really kind of just hit. And it's like, yeah, you're right. Like, I wouldn't have to be like searching for hidden videos or forums like to find the quote unquote answer.
You might as well be reading. You might as well be spending your time reading and interacting on like Illuminati forums. That's the reality of it.
Yeah, and so now, although I do appreciate his uploads and his
cryptocurrency,
and a lot of these upcoming treatments, I guess, talk about them. I kind of skip them. I'm kind of over it, just because, like you said, unless it's coming from you guys, then I feel like I would know it'd be legit or something.
But I promise all of you, and this is the truth, and this is not to sound like I am some big deal by any means, but these companies, these universities, they actually are in touch with us. They want to work with the American Hair Loss Association. They want our endorsement, and they want information from us as far as, they want to provide information to us. Now, I'll give you an example. I was contacted by Columbia University through the American Hair Loss Association it was about a month ago. And it was about what Angela Cristiano is currently doing with her work. Now, I know Angela personally. And of course, we will support that research. But the way in which it's presented, I cannot present anything through our organization that is going to look like something is coming right around the corner. So we will, and we're actually updating the site. So once the site is fully updated, we will be putting some information about what she's doing. But, that email came to us. Is that keep losing my headset. And so the reality is, if something is working, and I'm privy to that, I would go and have it done. And I would stop painting my head. And it may be embargoed. But with a wink and a nod, I would let you guys know there is something happening. I promise you that.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, it is all currently, in my view, most of it's bullshit. And if you are dumb enough to bank your hair and pay somebody to store your hair follicles, then turn off your radio or your computer. Just leave.
Yeah.
You know,
and
we want you hearing us.
Go ahead.
Unfortunately, as you say that, I watch a lot of your old videos rather than watch some of these newer videos, simply because I feel like even your older videos had good content because you've been fairly consistent. I remember.
Fairly.
Yeah,
I mean, fairly.
Very, very consistent, I guess you could say. But I remember one caller. I'm sure you remember him, of course, and he's very popular, I guess, amongst your followers. Joe from Staten Island. Well,
yeah.
He called a lot, very often, and I don't know. I didn't really know how to take it. I guess how to take his character, so to speak. I guess because I believe he was bald, right? But I think he had very high hopes that a treatment was coming soon, and he would always like call and he'd have high hopes
give the
about
report,
this new
the update. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I don't know what happened to him.
Look, Joe was a tremendous friend and fan of this broadcast. And for reasons unknown to me, really, I mean, they were just very confusing to me, he chose to no longer call the program. He chose to, at least at one point, get upset with me. It may have something to do with Joe Tillman. I don't know.
You know why he doesn't call? It's because of me. It's because he doesn't like me. He has a problem with me, and he feels like I took his space. That's why he doesn't call.
Partially.
Okay, yeah, I noticed that.
Or at least
tension, in the older videos, I noticed like I don't think he would address Joe. He would more address like Spencer. And I didn't really like think about it too much, but it kind of makes sense now.
Well, if Joe is listening, we would love for him to call in. We certainly miss him calling in, and he's always welcome to call this broadcast. Look, he stuck around for 16, 17 years.
Yeah.
I think he probably was the first caller to the Bald Truth when I was on WABC.
Yeah, I think he was an interesting character caller, and
well, he's an example of the end of the spectrum that you do not want to be on as a hair loss sufferer. And like I always used to say, and I still do, there's a little bit of Joe in all of us, and that's why no matter what my program directors would say, or I had producers at the time when I was on radio, they were like, "You can't let this guy constantly call in and take up so much time." I'm like, "Look, the fact that he is such a super fan, and the fact that he wants to be a part of things, and the fact that he's a real hair loss sufferer, and the fact that his entire life was changed by this, and the fact that he's willing to give up his time." Believe me, there are people who are listening that appreciate it. So I allowed it to happen.
Yeah. And I guess the reason I bring that up is, unfortunately, because it's very similar to what happens even now today, to where it's just different people, right? Or just different users that are, even me, it happened to me, like I said earlier, that I was excited about this new treatment, and but again, like you said, it's for younger listeners, or
dude, this is
younger.
It's the new generation of fools. Like I was one of them. I spent all of my time on alt.baldspot and the message forums, and when I was doing my initial research for things. Well, actually, that's not true. When I was doing my initial research, I didn't even have a computer, so I had to go to an internet cafe. This is how crazy it is. After my book was already written, to get a list of websites that essentially were talking about hair loss, and there were very few. There was a site called regrowth.com, which I think is still in existence. There was a site called hairtoday.com, which I think now is the owner from Hair Loss Help. And, that was really it. There was nothing out there. So And then once my book was published, got myself a computer, a little Mac SE, that's how old I am. And I found this news group of balding guys. And I didn't realize how angry everybody was. The angriest bunch of motherfuckers I ever ran into. And then it all started, man. And they were talking about these products, RU58841, back in 1998 on All-Time Bald Spot. We were talking about the potential approval of dutasteride. We were talking about other gray market products. There's a guy by the name of Proctor. I think he's still in practice. Everyone was buying his stuff. There was another guy out there. Everyone, starts with a P. I want to say Picard. But this is just a new generation of the same desperate people with a different medium. And now there are guys where, at least in those days, these guys who were spending a lot of time interacting with each other, they had no way to earn revenue from it. YouTube gave these guys the opportunity to fucking earn from what they're doing. And I can't blame them. You just got to be careful and realize that, I would say, like my whole thing, especially if I was talking about gray market products, I would say that essentially none of this is proven. This is for entertainment purposes only. I would have some sort of a disclaimer, even if it's like really quick, have to like the fast guy talking at the end.
Yeah.
But that's not the way it works. That's not going to get people to continue to subscribe and click back. And it's not going to get them views, enough views, where they could become an earning YouTuber.
Yeah, I think that ultimately, over time, like you said, we've all been there. We've all been desperate and done hours and hours of research. And I think that just really over time, you gain wisdom and realize that really the only proven effective treatment has been finasteride. I guess addressing the DHT, what is commonly believed to be the cause of androgenic alopecia.
There's been no major breakthroughs in my mind in the last 20 years. I honestly do, no matter what some people in the chat or elsewhere may say. I believe, and I've seen it with my own eyes, that the right PRP for the right patient can work. The problem is everybody's doing it. Everybody's selling it. It is the biggest fucking money grab besides low-level laser light therapy in this field today. Yep. And every doctor's office is now offering it.
Yeah.
You know what? My camera's about to shut off. Hold on. You can talk to Joe.
Okay. So speaking of, I guess, like he said in the past 20 years, there hasn't been anything else. In your opinion, obviously, I'm sure it's maybe difficult to know, but how far back do you think people have been trying to discover the cure for hair loss? Like how far? I know that in the past 20 years, there's
literally
been
thousands of years.
Emphasis. Yeah,
literally. There's I got a history of hair loss or something like that. I forgot it's been a few years on my own website where I'm talking about this. How even back in ancient Egypt, they're talking about rubbing hippopotamus fat on their head for hair loss. Caesar, his the wreath was to hide his hair loss. I mean, it's been going on for millennia.
Yeah, I was talking about Gersh Kunzman's book. It's called Hair, Mankind's Historic Quest to End Baldness. And it has that history in it. And we're talking about millennial, like millennium, thousands and thousands of years.
I really wish for you, Joe, if maybe you could make a video about that. That would be really interesting. Just the history of, like you just said, hair loss, I guess, how for thousands of years. And I didn't know that about Egypt or whatever and I'm sure there's been others as well. But like Spencer said, in the past 20 years, I'd imagine that this is the most advanced we have gotten in the past thousands and thousands of years. I mean, imagine if they in those times had finasteride, right?
Yeah. It's like it's been like Spencer says. It's what the hell does he say? What do you say? It's the
I don't know,
disease of the something or
it's a cancer of the spirit.
Yeah, cancer of the
A
spirit. It has
disease
been
of the spirit. Yeah.
forever. But yeah, that's not a bad idea. Maybe I can add that to the list of things to do and get that out by 2032.
With the cure.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
awesome,
as soon as the
yeah.
cure comes out.
Look, if you would have asked me in 1998 if I'd be sitting in my own studio doing the hair loss show 21 years later,
still talking about hair,
I would have been like, you are fucking out of your mind. I honestly believed that I had about a good 5 years. Like, I better sell a couple of million books and, make a lot of money on the radio and get the fuck out. And actually, that's the way that I was working it. So I guess because of that, that's why I was actually so motivated to do what I did, to really make it work, to come out of the gate swinging. And we did sell a fucking lot of books. It's funny. I'm doing a talk in Manchester, and I was thinking about it a little bit today because I was asked to read somebody else's talk. And, my book is published in like 5 languages. And I was looking at the covers, and I was looking at really what sold the most in what country. Obviously, the U.S. sold the most. But I was a bestseller in 3 countries, and that's the United States, Italy, and in Turkey. This is before Turkey became the mecca of hair transplant surgery.
Wow.
Mecca of hair transplant surgery. So now all the other covers are very simple, kind of like my book, my original book, The Bald Truth. But the Turkish cover doesn't have a picture of me on it. It has a picture of like some blonde dude, model. So not only was I not good looking enough or blonde enough to be on the cover of my own book.
In Turkey.
The Turks had to put a blonde dude on there, and they ended up selling about 50,000 more copies than all of the other foreign right publishers.
That's hilarious.
Wow.
So I actually, I'm probably going to make a correlation for the talk because it does show that, these guys have been, they know how to market shit.
And I guarantee that the guy with the blonde hair had a full head of blonde hair.
Unbelievable. I will show you the image. You can look it up. An unbelievable full head of blonde hair. And I never forget when I was sent a copy of the book. I didn't know whether to laugh or to be insulted.
A little bit of both.
I was just kind of happy that it was, they published a book in Turkish. I couldn't believe it.
More convincing to them. But you mentioned that you weren't expecting to be sitting where you are. I guess you didn't think it would be that long, right? In your honest opinion, how much longer do you think you will continue to do this? And if so, or if you have a time, what would be the reason that you would stop? Do you think it's because you just are finished, or because there may be something that can come out later?
I will say it's a very aggravating business. The politics of this business is a real pain in the ass. And, I have really my goal, which I met, and I feel pretty proud of myself for that on a personal level, was to completely retire by the age of 54. And I'm about to be 54 in a month. Not 55. Most people are like, they pick like that milestone, whether 55 or 65 to retire. I was like, I want to be able to, I talked to my financial advisor at a young age. I want to be able to figure out a way to retire and not have to worry about anything, just do something I want to do, something else I want to do at the age of 54. I've chosen not to do that. So now, essentially, I'm sticking around because, believe it or not, I want to. And this field is so fucked up. I see the tremendous opportunity in this chaos. And I think the opportunity is twofold. One, there's a tremendous opportunity to set people straight who are really being led astray. And we can save a lot of lives. That's great. That's the altruistic side of me. And there's also, tremendous opportunity to, make a hell of a lot of money too, whether I write another book or just, evolve what I'm doing, in other ways that I'm earning money through the industry. It's all there. It's just sitting there waiting for me. I'm still young. And like I said, I don't know what's happening. I feel like I have a cold. I could be dying. All of a sudden, Spence is not in the air anymore, and Joe's doing a memorial service on the Bald Truth. That's a possibility. So to answer, but to answer your question, completely, I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this. I think I'm going to be doing it for as long as I'm excited about it. And I do thank Joe for helping me with that, because he definitely got me kind of back into things and where I felt like I'm enjoying this again. Yeah,
I think I speak for all of us. We're grateful for that. I think that both of you are a perfect duo for this, and I think, and really with both of you, it kind of gets us all excited because you both provide different things to the audience.
Thank you.
Joe's, he has his knowledge with hair transplant, and you have yours with the medication and the field and behind the scenes things.
I'll tell you the real reason why he's not leaving is because I have compromising photos, and I don't want to have to invest in the equipment to get this going. So he's got to stick around for at least that.
The reality is, I wish you did, because maybe we get some more press. And talking about compromising photos, don't forget 2012, my man.
Shush. Interference.
Don't forget both you guys on my putting green in the backyard, and with a bottle of Jack Daniels.
We'd love to see those photos.
It might happen. We'll see.
Yeah, waiting.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, there are days when I'm just like, why am I still doing this? Because it's an aggravating day or a pain in the ass bullshit day, or some shit comes out of the woodwork, or you just don't feel like dealing with it. And there is aggravation. It's not like I can't explain it. It's almost like a frustration more than an aggravation. It's like, are you guys this stupid? Is it possible that you guys are this fucking dumb to allow these things to occur? And I'm talking about people in the industry. I'm talking about physicians. I just don't understand it. A lot of these guys, really, I mean, they are in a position, if they choose to be, I believe, to help most of you who are listening avoid being harmed.
Yeah.
And they choose not to, in my opinion, based on fear of, exposing their friends in the field, fear of potentially exposing themselves because they may be doing some things that they're claiming they're not doing. They may be cutting corners where they're claiming they're not cutting corners. They may be operating on patients who really aren't great candidates for surgery because, they're on their second, third, or fourth wife, and they are, in their mid-50s, and they are forced to hustle hair. That's the reality of this industry. So, they do. When doctors tell me that they feel like their hands are tied, there's nothing they can do, there's a black market out there, and they're ruining the industry, that's bullshit. These doctors are ruining their own industry. They have complete control. They have control of their online reputations more than they realize. They have control of the lives and the futures of all of you who are entrusting them with your lives, your appearance, you're putting your hopes and dreams and pinning your hopes and dreams on their expertise. And I believe that they are failing you in general.
Yeah.
How's that for a soapbox?
That was a great one. I like that.
Yeah, get it off your chest.
Yeah.
So I have just three more on my list. I didn't really get to finish it, so I'm just going to go over them real quick. Again, not trying to pick on Hairliciously, but he recently made another video about him getting off finasteride, and in the past he's gotten off, and then he got back on, and I guess got off again. But I guess I don't know if I feel like a lot of users look up to him, like followers look up to him, such as myself, and I don't know if that's good or bad because we kind of, like I said, look up to people like that. I finally built up the courage to take finasteride, and then you have someone who's going on and off all the time, and so I don't know how I feel about that. And
what were his reasons for alternating like that, for being on then off and back on again? What did he say? Was he experimenting? Was he having issues?
The most recent one, or in the past, because he's done it twice now, I think, and then the first time, I want to say it was like a year or two ago, and that time was because he said something about like cognitive function or like
brain
the
fog,
neurosteroids in the brain or something like that. And there was a study about rats or animals or sheep or something like that. Something to do with DHT in the brain, but then later he got back on it, and then you'll see in the comments people are like saying, they won't let that slide. They hold him to it. Like, what happened? I thought you were off of it, or I thought you were on it, or like, why are you always on and off? And the most recent one was because, which is understandable, like Spencer's mentioned. I guess he said that he referenced that again, but he said more specifically that he's getting off because he wants to have a child, and so I can understand that, but
well, look, I think anyone that's dabbling, I mean, just I'll use that word, in the use of finasteride, without any sort of real, just to me, reading studies about stuff that may scare you about something that you're taking, I get it, but I tend to look at it a bit more. I don't know, the way it's actually affecting me. It's like, some people talk, obviously there's the sexual side effects on finasteride that people report haven't had them. There's the kick in the balls feeling that people have had with finasteride. Yeah, I had that, but like with every other person that's ever reported it, it's gone after a few weeks, and that's usually early on when you're taking it. There's the other one of people complaining about brain fog. Well, I'm an idiot anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's like it's no difference. But but it's like, if it's working for you, or at least if you think there's a chance that it's working for you, then why fuck around with it? Now, the idea that I'm about to have trying to have a kid with my wife, I get it. Not a doctor, got to preface that with this following information, but there's not a single documented case over 20 years of this medication being in existence of any sort of issues with conception, much less with any sort of birth defects after the fact. And that's why people stop taking it.
Look, Andrew Zarian had like 2 kids in the last 2 years. They're like the most perfect children I've ever seen. Insane.
Yeah, that's right.
Beautiful kids.
Specs has twins. My buddy had a kid while he was on finasteride. Thousands of people. Now, I tell people, if it were me, I don't want to be the anomaly where I have the fucked up kid. And if the kid was fucked up, I would be blaming myself because of my OCD. So I would get off of it.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's my choice. I think
I could understand.
Yeah.
If it was the female.
Yeah.
If it was the
absolutely,
female,
there is reason to understand that for sure.
Because it's the sperm, right? I don't know how it could get into the sperm, because that's your DNA to the core. And now the female, because if she has the child in her, everything that she consumes directly affects the child, because they're essentially one. They're together. They're
well, no, I mean, your sperm could be fucked up. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, they used to think that, like, guys my age, we have kids, right? And there's a lot of guys in their 60s and 70s, but now they're finding out that our sperm is slightly fucked up as we get older, just like women's eggs. Now, we're able to impregnate women for sure and have normal kids, but the reality is there's a greater chance of having an autistic child from an older man as a father. Now, I was fucked. Right? I had a double whammy. My mother was 45 years old when she gave birth to me. Naturally, I was conceived at the age of when she was 44. So apparently, I don't know if I was expected. Whatever, I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah.
And
It is what it is.
my father was around the same age. So
I can relate.
Yeah, but I mean, my mother, I'm talking about, this is 1965. Bitch could have been in the Guinness Book. That's what I'm saying. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy back then.
I can totally relate to that because my dad is very, very, he's older, much older because they had their first wave of children and then I was part of the second wave. So like, for example, the closest sibling above me is, I want to say 13, 14 years older than me. And my
Wow.
dad is around 75 or 76, closer to 80.
And look, no offense to you, but
I'm
I could
28.
tell. I could tell. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I'm just busting your balls.
Hear your voice.
Yeah, I'm just busting your balls.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that makes sense.
No, but
But,
there's definitely. I mean, who knows? Maybe that's why I have such bad OCD. Maybe that's why I have a movement disorder. Maybe it's just because I grew up in a crazy family where I ended up developing a phobia about getting the mail. It was my job to go downstairs and get the fucking mail. But I knew every time I got the mail, there were bills. And every time I brought my father those fucking bills, all hell broke loose. So to this day, I have an issue going to the fucking mailbox.
So, do
True
you have
story.
any siblings?
I had one brother who was killed about.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's been
10 years?
13 years ago.
Yeah.
But as far as going back to the sperm talk again, I think that, but that may be so, and I agree with you. But I feel like that's more age related, right? I mean, that would make sense. But would consuming anything affect the quality of sperm? I guess maybe.
There's
maybe quality, but-
there's evidence that smoking marijuana affects the quality of sperm. There's evidence that even smoking cigarettes.
But would that affect the DNA or more so like I want to say the thickness, but
No, it affects every
the
aspect.
volume?
I mean, that is your DNA essentially. You're passing
So
on
even
DNA.
the child.
It will
Like even
affect. Listen, now they are finding out that the trauma that your parents had were in their DNA and passed on to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? My father's father, my grandfather committed suicide. My father was in World War II and saw combat for 200 and some odd days.
Yep.
That
Sounds
shit,
like some,
he was fucked up. Let me tell you this, over a lot of shit.
So if genetic memory is true, then that
Explains a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's called genetic memory.
Nature and animals and theory of evolution, I guess, right? Like what is it? Not natural selection, but I don't know, some kind of scientific term out there.
Evolution?
Yeah, there you go. That makes sense.
So
Yeah,
you said that,
okay.
they had some questions about, like, you just asked another one about hairlessly. What are your other ones?
Oh, okay. So I have two more. This isn't about hairlessly, but these are the last two, just the topics that I had. One was FUE expert, a transplant doctor. I don't know if it's true or not, but I've seen some forums where people talk about a doctor named. He's got some really good work, but Juan Cuoto. Yeah, I've seen some of his work, and it's amazing. But anywho, the people on the forums or comments or whatever that follow him, they say that he's booked for the next 4 or 5 years. Is that possible? Do you think that's true?
Yeah, it's possible, but it also depends. Like I know a doctor that's in, I think he's in Chicago. It's supposed to be booked for like a year or a year and a half solid. But what people don't realize, he does like one surgery a week.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And he kind of hands off the rest to his young associate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that if someone is being listed or talked about, being booked out for X number of months or years, as if it's some sort of indicator of quality, isn't really an accurate way to judge for yourself what you need or where you need to go. I think that a lot of times, it's, especially in this industry, it's complete horseshit. Just like I explained to you, with Dr. Kuto, I know a little bit of his backstory because I know some people that knew him when he got started. I can't verify it, so I won't repeat it. But look, I mean, he obviously has some fans. He's got, I'll be the first to admit, he's got some great looking results in videos. He's doing it right as far as like combing through the hair and showing the reality of the or supposedly the reality of what's going on. But the bottom line is numbers can't lie. So if you got a case where, guys in Norwood 6 and, 2 sessions of, 3,000 grafts each, or I'm just pulling it out of thin air, you're not going to get full density. You're not going to have a full head of hair from that. 6,000 grafts on a Norwood 6, it just mathematically doesn't work.
Look, I want to make a comment. Sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought, Joe.
So the point is that if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. It doesn't mean that he's not doing great work. It's just you're not there to see it in person, and it just comes down to reality.
Yeah.
Here's reality. The fact that there are, how many cardiologists do you think out there have fans on the internet?
I don't know. I can't think of any.
This is the most ridiculous fucking. This is one of my pet peeves. I got to get rid of this. I have to somehow put the kibosh on all of this. There are cosmetic surgeons. I'm not just talking about the hair world that have, their success is based on their Instagram feed and their fucking followers. This is surgery, motherfuckers. To have a fan club, and I got to tell you, let's be honest, Joe. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
You started this whole fucking thing in hair. You developed this. You didn't mean to do it in this way, for it to go this way.
Wait. Where's this going? What?
No, you didn't mean for it to go in this way. Just like I didn't mean FUE when I introduced FUE to North America. I didn't expect what fucking happened to happen.
Yeah.
But you got out there and started to show your hair.
Oh, yeah.
And you developed a fan base for Hassan Wong that essentially set them into the stratosphere.
Damn straight. Yeah.
Yeah.
That changed that set the tone for everything.
And
Nazareth,
and a lot of
all of these guys
set up false expectations because of what Dr. Wong was able to achieve for me. It's like so many people came in, I want what you did for Joe. It's like, not really gonna work for you like that. But yeah, I mean, guilty. Sorry, guys.
No, that certainly wasn't your intention.
Inevitable.
Yeah, it is inevitable. No. Listen, that's the way that it works, dude. I mean, like when Ray Woods told me that the reason he didn't want to just give this procedure away is because he believed that it would just be bastardized and if he would take advantage of it and just misrepresent it. He wasn't wrong. I mean, my only concern was that, if he really figured out a way to guide people and start to take it slowly, people would not have had to reinvent the wheel, and there would have been a lot less initial damage. Now, that would change because then there's always going to be the guys that they learn how to do it correctly, like John Cole, who figured it out himself. And then there are guys who see this as a way to really set themselves apart, and they just kind of start doing it. I mean, that's just the natural progression of a lot of things. But if there were enough doctors who learned early enough from the right resources and got the right training, I believe that there would be a lot less carnage walking around.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I feel like you said, what we talked about earlier, it's inevitable. Like now technology, it comes with technology, that what we see on our phones, on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook. I think even now Instagram is bigger than maybe Facebook and YouTube possibly. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they're toe-to-toe, but that's the only way that users and the general population can see these results and judge for themselves in reviews, because otherwise I don't know how else they would be able to do that. It's like the doctors, I feel like...
Wait a second. I just checked Instagram. I just saw a study shows that Propecia can cause diabetes.
What?
I've been hearing a lot about that lately.
Oh, Jesus.
But is that true?
I don't know.
I'll tell you what else can cause diabetes: eating too much shit.
Yeah.
And not
Sugar.
exercising. Yeah.
Insulin.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So
All right, listen, we gotta call it a night. I don't know if we even answer all of your questions.
That's all right. I'll call in next time.
All right, man. Well, listen, good luck. Stay off the fucking forums, even mine.
Hey.
And you know what? Watch these guys for entertainment. But please, Joe, I'm gonna request something of you. It's up to you if you want to do it. But
okay, no pressure.
It's it's a pain in the ass. I wrote some posts about really understanding, and I put this on my Instagram at Spencer Kobren, by the way, guys, if you want to follow me. About understanding the difference between an influencer and an expert in this field. And there's a huge fucking difference. You are talking about guys who have made themselves influencers from their fucking living rooms.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about. The guys that are out there on YouTube. And there's nothing wrong with what they're doing, except apparently, even listening to you, you could hear the confusion. You can hear that you are now, you chose to take Propecia based on an influencer, and now you're concerned about continuing to take Propecia because this guy's gone on and off Propecia for various reasons.
Yep.
Your influencer should be your doctor. Should be an expert in this field at the very least. Someone in the trenches, someone who works in the field, who has access to countless thousands of patients. I like Joe, for instance.
I think that YouTube, though, although there's a lot of all these users and, as you say, influencers out there, I think that you two are the most reputable out there. Ultimately,
we're the most reputable, and we're the least followed because we tell the truth. People don't want to hear that shit. We're two old men telling the truth, man.
And here's the other thing is that there's no like for myself and for Spencer, there's no monetary motive for us to do what we do talking to you right now on the phone. Like we're not selling products. I mean, I've got sometimes I'll talk about the hair fiber that I do have a financial arrangement with. That's Hairton. Don't forget coupon code Joe20. But I mean, there is no financial motive for us to do what we do. So combine that with the fact that we've both been involved with this industry for almost 20 years for me and over 20 years for Spencer, and I've worked in clinics like for 11 years. I know what's going on. Like that's real information that costs you guys nothing, whereas these other guys, and I'm not blaming them at all. I need to be clear about this, but you got your Hairliciously, you got your Matt Dominance. They seem like nice guys. They're doing what they need to do to make a buck, and that's fine. But like Spencer said, it's from their living room or from like they had one surgery, and they're basically regurgitating existing information that anyone can find. And they're younger. They got their following and the way they're doing it, and that's fine. But that's the difference between why we're doing this and why everyone else is doing it. It's for money, and I don't blame them for it. I mean, that's I'm not faulting them for that. It's just people need to understand what the difference is in motivation. I want to help you. I want to make sure you guys know what the hell you're getting into. It's part of my larger overall mission about how I do make a living is I have to tell you guys the truth, because if I don't, then eventually it comes back on me and I can't make a living. So
I'm a little different. I'm doing it just so that I can see myself and track my aging process via video. But
I can believe that.
Yeah, but honestly, look. That is kind of the reality. I got on the radio and all that stuff too. I had an opportunity when I was young, sold a lot of fucking, a lot of people read my book, let's put it that way, because I was on the radio for so long. And it definitely helped with the organizations. But at this stage in my life, essentially what I have built is an annuity. and I could shut off this camera, turn off this mic. You guys don't hear about, don't see me. I don't put myself out there to be criticized and all that stuff. And I just quietly collect checks, and nobody would be the wiser. We just enjoy interacting with people. At least I do. And, just having our finger on the pulse of what's happening. We like hearing what you have to say. I would never know about this guy here, Hairliciously, or any of these guys if it wasn't for Joe. And then if it wasn't for you guys reinforcing that they are becoming more and more popular,
Yeah, and you guys do something that others don't, which is, you do this consistently every week, and you actually hear from your followers and those that are suffering. You take people's calls, and we're actually real people. I'm actually the real person with legitimate questions and legitimate concerns, and both of you seem to be genuinely concerned about that, which shows that your heart is in it.
Well, dude, I appreciate the kind words. I'm glad that you were listening. I'm glad that you were able to kind of, be involved and enjoy all the mediums and all the different, you have access to all of this different content, but at least you seem to have your head on straight, and you're recognizing now after a while that, just look at certain things with a jaundiced eye, realize that, again, there are influencers and there are experts in this field. And in general, the experts are not going to be, not saying they shouldn't, but there's not going to be something at the end to say, and go to, so-and-so to get my, ebook or this, that, that's generally not the way that it works. They've already reached that part of their lives. They've already accomplished certain things in their lives. They've already been published, or they've already been in the trenches working in the industry for 30 years, or, that they're at a point where they're not new to the game. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and that's another thing too that you a good point that you bring up. I mean, it's almost I guess fair to say that you guys work with doctors, right? Like you guys work, you were hand in hand with doctors, and so you got doctors backing you up, and I can't really say that for them. And it's almost like you guys are actually supervising doctors, which is kind of crazy to say,
Well, I know actually one of the guys, one of these influencers, I'm not going to name the person, was essentially almost demanding, at least according to this one doctor here in California, a free hair transplant, and in an effort to promote him. And, he's like, well, maybe we could work something out where, I give you a discount. He's like, no. I have this huge following, and I want it for free. We're talking about a guy that charges top dollar. The hair transplant that this kid would have wanted would have cost $40,000. And this doctor felt he was just being extorted.
I do know that same guy has started working with another doctor. He is I don't know the arrangement. I don't know the details, but what's that?
Another victim, or he's going for his victim, trying to get his victim. He's trying to make the doctor his victim.
Joe, you there? Oh, Joe just froze, man.
Oh no!
Why does that happen? All right, Joe, why don't you, if you can listen to me on the feed, hang up and try to redial and see what happens. In the interim, I'm going to close out the show.
Yeah.
So, you can hear me, Joe?
Oh, I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, you're back. You're back now.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off when I said he was victim or whatever. See, it seemed like you were on to really something good.
Yeah, well, he's freezing up. But yeah, I mean, listen, I do want to make it clear that I find it, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a capitalist, and I find it almost refreshing to see guys who figure out a way to do something that's creative, utilize the resources that we have today to earn a living. For the most part, there's some positive stuff that comes out of what these guys are doing. At least they're making you aware of what's out there. but you just got to be fucking careful. That's all I'm saying. Don't make a decision based on some kid who had a hair transplant.
Yeah.
You know, they may be great and entertaining, and some of them actually, I mean, I've watched some videos where some of it does come from a certain level of a knowledge base. But you can also do that research yourself. And my advice is whatever you hear about, at the very least, come back to us and we can tell you the truth and whether or not the information is reasonable.
And another thing to add to that, although because you mentioned that they're young, another that works to your advantage is that, yeah, you've been through it. I mean, you are the perfect example of who we should get advice from because you're much older.
How dare you? No, dude, I am the long-term after, man. I am the long-term dude. I'm the guy who's been on finasteride for more than 2 decades.
Right, which is a smarter route to take, you know, because a lot of these younger followers, like, they don't know anything. They're ignorant. They just think that a transplant solves everything, and they're going to go out there and do it. And
I am the guy that chose to glue. I'm the guy who chose to glue hair to his head before considering a hair transplant or trying to completely paint my hair. I mean, I did whatever I could.
And I'm the guy that's had surgical hair restoration for over 60% of my life.
Yeah, but you guys have mentioned yourselves that compared to others that are your age, you guys are doing very well, and others are kind of like jealous, which makes sense, you know, because I guess I shouldn't have said older. I want to say
we are older.
You're wise. You're wise.
Dude, there's nothing wrong. Listen, I joke about that. I think there's ageism in this world. That's I as a younger person, when I was younger, I kind of, you know, I was the same way. But once you get to the point where you're my age, really depending on how you take care of yourself, it's better, man. I got to tell you, I do not envy guys who are in their 20s or 30s. That's a fucking tough time of your life, man.
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I could do whatever the fuck I want. I'm going to be 54 years old. I don't want to do something. I'll be like, no, sorry, don't want to do it.
Plus, everyone starts to let themselves go, but you know, and you guys look fairly good for that age as well. Just like when you graduate high school, right? Like the popular girls in high school, they start to gain weight, have kids, and then they're not so hot anymore. And I feel like it's similar, you know.
Dude, let me tell you, man. When I one of my high school reunions, man, and I come from a high school. A lot of the girls kept themselves pretty well, but you could see a stark difference between the guys and the girls in general. Yeah. And of course, there's some guys who, you know, genetically they're fucked up or they really let themselves go. But I have to say, surprisingly, for the most part, a lot of the guys in my high school class really kept themselves in pretty good shape. They do not look old. Cannot say that about a lot of women my age. You meet a woman who's 53 years old, it's rare to find someone who's really got their shit together. Now, there's some really hot women in their 50s. So women, do not write me. If you kept yourself in great shape and you were lucky with good genes, whatever, I know you're still smoking. That's great. But that's not typical.
No.
Yeah.
So anyway, listen, we are going to close up shop. I'm going to go. I got to eat something, man. Joe looks like he's hungry. He looks hangry, actually.
I am hangry, but I'm reading up on this finasteride diabetes thing, and there's studies from 2014 talking about this. So I don't know if there's anything new. I haven't read the thing, but maybe I'll write something about it to summarize it. It doesn't seem like there's anything new here, but I could be wrong. We'll see.
Okay.
I'm not getting off of it. I don't give a fuck.
No, I'm not getting off of it. Yeah.
All right, man. Listen, good luck. Thanks for the call.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Take
Have
care.
a good night, guys.
Take care, James.
All right, guys. Now, we didn't do this at the beginning of the show, which I always forget because I do an opening and Joe needs to remind me.
In the first half hour. We're just happy to be on here.
It's like, holy shit, this thing worked. So, Joe, give out the websites, the really cool forum owners who have embraced us, embraced our message, and want their users to have the opportunity to see this show on their platform?
Absolutely. Let's start off with our English friends over at hairlossexperiences.com. It is, like I said, an English-based forum, but they've got clinics that they work with from all over the world, and those clinics are sharing their results. And, of course, patients also that have been to those clinics sharing their experiences. The owner is a repair patient like myself, and we go way back. He's a good guy, and so, he supports us. We support him, but I'd like to see you guys support him as well. It's hairlossexperiences.com. Next up is the Italian hair loss and hair restoration forum, bellicapelli.forumfree.it. Another repair patient runs and operates that forum. Very good friend of mine, great friend of the show. Hair loss clinics, hair loss patients, everyone sharing their stories and experiences. That's bellicapelli.forumfree.it. And finally, there is international-hairlossforum.com. It's the French hair loss and hair restoration forum. Again, clinics sharing results, patients sharing experiences. And on both those last forums, just because it's in a foreign language doesn't mean you can't read it, because any modern browser will automatically translate. That last one is international-hairlossforum.com. Check them out.
Guys, our message forum is baldtruthtalk.com. Check out the forum. Do our best to moderate it and to make sure that it is a safe place for you guys to get information. But remember, again, most of the stuff that's posted it's posted by anonymous users. So take everything that you read on a message forum with a grain of salt. That's baldtruthtalk.com. The American Hair Loss Association is americanhairloss.org. If you're considering surgical hair restoration, do yourself a favor. Check out the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. That's IAHRS.org. There's no guarantees with hair transplant surgery, but at the very least, you're going to have a fucking fighting chance to have a decent result. And we do our best to make sure that the physicians who are part of what we do and support this message are really consistently doing the best work out there and have the least complaints. And I will tell you this is not hyperbole. We are, through the American Hair Loss Association, the IHRS, and the Bald Truth, and now actually, Joe's getting a lot of messaging and contacting about complaints as well, hairtransplantmentor.com. We are the clearinghouse worldwide for complaints in this industry. If there is something you need to know about a doctor, it's in my database. That is it. And the database is 20 some odd years old. So it is all there in black and white. Every unhappy patient, every fuck up, every guy that's been, fucking had their license suspended for drugs and alcohol use, for beating their fucking wives or whatever. We got it.
Yes, they do.
We know where all the bodies are buried.
Absolutely.
Thebaldtruth.com for archives of this broadcast. Also, again, hairtransplantmentor.com is Joe Tillman's personal website. Everything Joe Tillman, everything hair transplant surgery, everything you need to know about this insane field. You're going to find most of it, if not all of it, on Joe's website. And you're definitely going to find out about his story and why he's an actual fucking expert, not just an influencer. What else? I think that's it, right?
I think it's it. Yep.
Guys, until next, guys, follow me on Instagram. I'm trying to build that following. I was just about at 1,000 and dropped back down. It's like a fucked up thing. It's frustrating. But I want all of my guys, all of my followers to be real people who are really interested in what we're posting, and to like and to comment and to do all those things. I love the fact that a lot of doctors in the industry are following me. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm doing is for you guys. And the more you support it, the more it's going to get out there for public consumption, and everyone is going to be helped. So take the time to do that. And also subscribe to Joe Tillman's personal YouTube page, which is youtube.com//hair transplant mentor. Subscribe, like the show, ring the bell, all that stuff that you young people do. Until next time, Be strong. God bless. And thank you so much for listening. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.
Bud Light presents Real American Heroes.
Real American heroes.
Today we salute you, Mr. Really Bad